Hello and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach's Hurricane Preparedness Workshop. My name is John and I will assist during today's virtual session. Before we start, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items so our virtual audience members know how to participate. Your microphones have been muted to reduce background noise. There will be specific time at the end of your presentation when virtual audience members can participate. The first way is by typing your question into the questions section at the bottom of the GoToWebinar interface. Those items will be read into the record at the appropriate time. The second way is by clicking on the raise hand icon indicating that you wish to speak. We will announce the next speaker at the appropriate time and unmute their audio, at which time you should state your name and address for the record. Please minimize any sources of background noise and speak clearly into your microphone during your allotted time. I will now turn control over to Chelsea, who will be moderating this virtual session.
Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Sanabia. I'm the Marketing Events Coordinator here at the City of Boynton Beach. As most of you are aware, hurricane season begins June 1st. Today, we will hear from City of Boynton Beach and Palm Beach County staff who will provide helpful and critical information to webinar attendees in an effort to help our community prepare for the upcoming hurricane season. As John had mentioned, please hold questions to the end of the webinar or drop your questions in the chat box on the platform. Next, I'll go ahead and introduce Assistant Chief Phil Mohorn of the Boynton Beach Fire Department.
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Chief Phil Mohorn, and I'm going to just talk about the disaster planning. First, I'd like to say that you would like to create your personal support network. And next slide, yes. That will be consisting of you creating a family list of contacts, friends, neighbors, and in that list, you also want to include some members that are outer state as well. Keeping in mind that you could lose cell connection and resort to a landline source of communication. Next slide. Deciding to stay or evacuate. And that you look at your location. Do you live in a mobile home, evacuation zones? And you can also utilize our city's website to find the mapping system of the evacuation zones as well as evacuating areas. How much time you will need, that will be depending on where you live versus where you need to go in terms of a shelter or a relocation. And you need to use this map once again to help you decide how to make that evacuation route. Next slide. Considering your service animal or pet, what should you bring if you evacuate with the pet? You could contact the facility that another panelist will go over in terms of the shelters that we have in place here at Boynton Beach as well as Palm Beach County. Some of the things you need to think about as well as consideration of your pet. Do you have a pet that's disabled? Do you have a pet that needs or have a special diet? Those are some of the things you need to decide as well. Next slide. Build an emergency kit. Most of you might already have this kit available. If you do, at this time, you may want to start looking into this kit to make sure your batteries are still fresh, your water supply, hearing aids, medicines, important documents, whether they be hard copies or electronic, cash on hand, all of those things you need to keep in mind when supplying this kit. Next slide. And finally, get involved with your community, your homeowners association, volunteer. You all can make sure that you're looking out for your neighbors before and after the storm, knowing those neighbors that are disabled and need special care as well. And you can support them learn and help them create their kit as well. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Great, thank you, Chief Mohorn. Next, we will go ahead and introduce Mario Guzman, Director of Public Works, and Mario will be informing the community on preparing your home and property.
All right, awesome. Hello, everyone. Just want to have a candid conversation about preparation. And what I like to tell people is preparation is kind of a lifestyle living in South Florida. We're not going to wait until the event hits us to start preparing. I think with the mindset when there's no storm in place, we just have a better mindset to prepare for a said storm. I can let you know on behalf of the Public Works Department, we do take this seriously. Actually, just had a meeting about last week where we told our employees, ensure that in your home you're prepared and everything, because in the event of a storm or catastrophic event, our Public Works employees are essential personnel and they will be here. They need to be here for the residents. So, but there's no way for them to be here with the right mindset if their home is not in proper condition. So using learning lessons from that, I'd like to implore and tell everybody, please make sure you're getting prepared ahead of time, as the chief had stated, battery, water, all those supplies are readily available now when there's no storm out there, and it just gets a little more difficult and that's more stress during the storm. In regards to Public Works, excuse me, our departments are prepped and ready. From a solid waste perspective, we like to tell everyone, keep the debris and clean now. It's a real large, it's a big workload for us during the storm to try to get all the bulk and all those things. So if you have all those trimmings and tree trimmings, let us know, keep everything clean, give us a call. We can help you guys out as it comes to that, because once it comes to a storm, it just becomes increasingly difficult to keep up with demand. So, but our staff is available. And like I said earlier, it's a lifestyle that we do from solid waste. Make sure we're dumping all of the debris in the road, make sure we're keeping the garbage clean, make sure the trucks are staying in right shape. From a facilities perspective, we ensure that we want to be able to serve everyone here. So we're keeping our tanks prepped with fuel for generators and all those things. Our engineering department, in conjunction with our streets department, is actively monitoring all of our stormwater and drainage. Because again, that's the kind of stuff you maintain throughout the whole year, so you don't have these flooding situations. And also, we also like to have, chainsaws and whatnot. The crew knows about these things in the event they have to clear any kind of debris. So, and the one thing I will say, make sure you're wearing the proper personal protection, vests, glasses as needed. The last thing we want is someone to get hurt prepping for a storm. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell from the Public Works Department. We're here to support you, we're here to provide services, and know that we were prepping back in December for the hurricane. It's an ongoing thing. So that's all I have. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here to serve.
Great, thank you, Mario. Next, we'll hear from Keith Wall from Palm Beach County, who will touch on important shelter information.
Thank you. Let's go ahead with the next slide. So the first thing we need to think about is, what are we worried about when it comes to hurricane season? Hurricanes are large tropical systems that come in and bring rain and water. This starts with June 1st and runs to November 30th. It's important to remember that we could get a storm before or after hurricane season, but this is when the majority of them can happen. Let's split the two things we talk about the most: watches and warnings. A watch is an announcement that sustained winds are possible within the specified area near us in the next 48 hours. A warning is an announcement that sustained winds are expected somewhere within the specified area in the next 36 hours. So if we were to think of this in terms of dessert, a watch means someone's put all the ingredients to bake a cake on the table. A warning means the oven just buzzed and there's cake. So what can this mean for us? Do we have to worry if it's only a tropical storm or a category 1 or 2? Really, you've got to think about what your dangers are. It's the wind and the rain. And so even a small tropical storm in 2012 called Isaac was a big impact for us. It was just a tropical storm, but it put more than a foot of water in our community, and that's really dangerous. So water is the big thing we have to think about. You can hide from the wind, but you have to run from the water. 6 inches of water can knock you over. A foot of water could wash away a small car. 2 feet of water can easily wash away an SUV or a truck. So it's important that you consider, are you in an area that typically floods on heavy rainy days? If so, you probably are in a place that's going to be susceptible to flooding in the event of a tropical storm or hurricane. So what can you do about it? It's a simple 4-step process. Make a plan, build a kit, get involved, and be informed. So let's look at make a plan. So know your hazards, know your zones, and have a communication plan. So do you live near the water? Does your area typically flood? Do you have a lot of loose debris near your home that might be dangerous in a windstorm? Know your home itself. Does it leak? Is it an older home? Are you in a mobile home? What about your family and your loved ones? Do you have elderly relatives that need care? What about children? Are you responsible for any other adults? Do you have pets that you love? We often love our fur babies more than our real babies. Do you or any of your loved ones have medical concerns that need to be addressed? So as you put together an understanding of what your life is like, you need to look at your flood zones and your hurricane evacuation zones. Flood zones exist everywhere. Everyone lives in a flood zone. It's kind of like an insurance code that tells you how risky is the area you live in to be flooded. Hurricane evacuation zones, not everyone lives in one. Either you live in a place that is a B, C, D, E, or L evacuation zone as coded on the county flood maps, or you live in what we call A, which is manufactured housing or housing that's no longer up to code. If none of those apply to you, don't evacuate. Stay home where it's comfortable. And if you're not sure, you can visit readyppc.com, put in your address, and find out both of these answers. So if you need to evacuate, know where to go, know how to get there. Know that you only want to travel a few minutes or a few miles to a safe destination. There's no reason to go far. There are 2 shelters within the city. There are 15 shelters throughout the county, and we even have a pet-friendly shelter as well. So again, you got to run from the water, hide from the wind, and go just far enough to get to safety. The best place to be is home. It's where your snacks are. It's where you're comfortable. If you can't stay at home, stay with friends or family. Consider a hotel. If that's not on the table, shelters are there. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be a comfortable experience, but it will be a safe, secure experience. Now, when you get to the shelter, you are going to get 20 generous square feet of space. That's 5 feet by 4 feet. That's not enough room for the average adult to lay down. So you're going to be pretty uncomfortable if you need to stay in a shelter. Think of it like camping without any of the fun stuff. No campfires, no s'mores, but it's a safe place to be. Now, let's say you have some other special needs. We talk about special needs in many ways in day-to-day life, but in emergencies, special needs are people who are dependent on oxygen, are taken care of by a caregiver, and have rely on electric medical devices to stay well. If this applies to you or someone you care about, you need to learn about the Special Needs Shelter Program. If you need to evacuate to a shelter with pets, you need to be reaching out to our pet-friendly shelter to register in advance and make sure that you have a safe place for your puppies and kitties to stay in the event of a disaster. Both of these programs require application and registration. The Special Needs Shelter Program requires you to apply, have your eligibility determined, be entered into the Special Needs Shelter Registry. For pet shelters, it's about making sure we know if your pet has their shots and that we have an adult caretaker who's going to remain with the animals to keep them safe, fed, and comfortable. Have a plan for how to stay in touch with your loved ones. Have someone local and someone out of state who you are going to designate as the person you are going to update in an emergency. In the event that you're scrambling to get the family ready for a disaster, letting everyone else know who is going to be your spokesperson in the event of emergency really takes the stress out of you having to answer all those calls and texts. So put together your plan, have your essential phone numbers, your emails, list of meeting places, and you can get all sorts of great resources at ready.gov. After a disaster, you can use tools like Facebook and other social media platforms that often have a safety check feature so that you can easily mark that you are safe. Now let's talk a little bit about a kit. You want to get your emergency essentials together, important documents, and special items. So think about how much stuff you need to take care of yourself day to day, just like a camping trip, and now pack it up in a way that's easy to move. So whether you stay at home or you have to go to a shelter, having your kit portable can be really helpful. Gallon of water per person, food, snacks, flashlights, batteries, pet food, medicine. We talk about all this important stuff. It's great to be prepared. 3 days should be your minimum. 5 days is really a better choice. And don't forget to pack plenty of chocolate. Important documents and special items to consider: having identification, flood insurance, copies of, your health insurance cards, as well as copies of your insurance policies, having good backups of all of your lists of medications, birth certificates, other important things is so important. Make sure that the stuff is secured and you know where it is in the event of a disaster. And then, of course, get involved. There are many ways to get engaged in disaster, and sometimes just talking to your neighbor and making sure that they're okay and have a plan for an emergency can make all the world in that one person's life. So if you want to do more than that, there are a number of organizations that are active in disasters that would love your support. And then again, talking to your neighbors is the fundamental thing. Make sure they know how to be prepared. Help them evacuate. Sometimes having that elderly neighbor shelter with you gives you the added benefit of extra supervision of children, and then knows that they have somewhere safe to be and that they are not alone. And then helping your neighbors afterwards. Let's get the community back together and engaged. And then finally, be informed. So there are great tools through the city and through the county. At the county, we have Alert PBC, which is just a great way to get notifications. But watch your local media, download the apps, use your social media tools, and find ways that work for your life to remain connected to good sources of information. Alert PBC is the county's emergency notification system where you can sign up to get texts, calls, emails, whatever you prefer, the time of day you choose, the type of messages you choose, so you get to shape the information that comes to you. This covers things like severe weather, natural disasters, technological concerns, police activity, whatever you want to get notified. You can just check down the list and determine what messages do I want, what messages do I not want, and what times do I want to not get contacted. You can go to www.alertpbc.com to create a profile, set it up. As always, it's free. Anything you provide to us is kept strictly confidential. And then we also have our social media apps. Whether you are on the Apple or Android side of the fence, you can download Palm Beach County's DART app, our disaster awareness and recovery tool, where you can find out lots of cool information. For example, what hurricane zone am I standing in at the moment? What flood zone am I in? What nearby gas stations have power? What grocery stores are open? Even though power might be down, you can, if mobile network is up, you can find out where can you get gas and where can you get food. And then, of course, feel free to follow us on social media. We'd be happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Keith. Palm Beach County is always a great partner with the city. Thank you for always making sure that you're assisting us and helping us keep our community safe. Next, we'll go ahead and hear from our City of Boynton Beach Fire Marshal, Kathy Klein, who will talk about generator and gasoline safety.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Everyone's number one, safety item is generators and how to stay safe. Next slide, please. There's multiple types of generators. There's some that are lightweight that you can get at Home Depot and portable. Then obviously there's the bigger ones that lately have been a big demand for pre-made in your house to where it just automatically turns on. With each generator, there's different type of fuels: propane, gasoline, and diesel. Next. Some do's and don'ts. These are things that you should do: is keep the generator 15 feet from any window, door, or vent. Always direct exhaust away from your home, window, any openings. Keep a 3 to 4 foot clear space around the generator. Disconnect the power coming into your home. and plug appliances directly into the generator. If an extension cord must be used, use one that is grounded, heavy duty, and for outdoor use. Some don'ts. Never run a generator in an enclosed space. Never run a generator in the garage, even with the door open. Never plug the generator into a wall outlet or the main electrical panel. And never refuel the generator while it is running. Carbon monoxide. So those don'ts, the reason why is because of carbon monoxide poisoning. Every year, 500 people die from carbon monoxide poisoning because of improper generator use. So some generator safety. Refill generator only after it has been cooled. Never run a generator in the rain. Place generator either in a dry area or under an open canopy structure. Follow all manufacturer instructions. Only a licensed electrician should connect a generator to the main electrical panel, which will include an automatic transfer switch. Maintain an adequate supply of fuel and store in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place away from any heat source. And again, inspect and maintain your generator regularly. A lot of times people buy generators and only use them for hurricanes, but you have to be prepared and make sure you keep monitoring your generator started according to the instructions. Only use fuel recommended in the owner's manual. Keep fuel supply in ANSI approved containers away from the generator. Store fuel outdoors in a well ventilated space, never indoors. So how do you protect yourself and your family? Again, you follow all of the manufacturer instructions. Purchase and install a CO detector. While the generator is in use, if you feel sick, dizzy, or weak, get fresh air right away. If you experience serious symptoms, get medical attention immediately and call 911. So one of the most questions I get asked is gasoline safety tips. So store an approved container holding 5 gallons or less that can be found at your local hardware store. Storage in 1 and 2 family dwellings is limited to a total of 25 gallons. The 25 gallons are per structure, not per family. If possible, store gasoline in a cool, dry, ventilated, and secure area entirely separate from the house, such as a shed or a detached garage. If storage within the building is limited to rooms with fire-rated separation from the rest of the structure, such as a garage or storage room opening to the outside only. No other equipment or utilities are allowed in this area. Do not store near appliances such as clothes dryers or water pumps. Store well away from generators and cars. Keep gasoline containers out of reach from children and pets to prevent accidental poisoning. And make sure containers have child-resistant caps.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Gasoline and generator safety is a very important topic to talk about during hurricane season. Next, we'll hear from Laura Lansberg. She's the Assistant Director of Marketing Events here at the City of Boynton Beach.
Thank you, Chelsea. Hi, everyone. As Chelsea said, my name is Laura Lansberg. I am the Assistant Director of Marketing Events for the City of Boynton Beach, and I'm here to discuss how you can stay informed and connected before, during, and after a storm. Hopefully many of you have visited the city's website, which can be found at boynton-beach.org. The website has tons of information for everyday residents, businesses, and visitors. What is important to note is that in the event of a storm, at the top of the web page, we have the ability to place an alert bar, which you will see in the slide. It's a red bar at the top. In the event of an emergency, we will place information there that was relevant, and we will be updating that throughout the day and throughout the emergency situation. Sometimes you might see that bar as yellow, and that would mean that there is some sort of situation, but not a true emergency. So definitely keep that in mind when you do see that color of the alert bar. On the web page, you will also find a dedicated page for hurricanes. That can be found through a search bar on the homepage of boynton-beach.org, or if you visit a dedicated URL called prepareboynton.com, that will bring you to the same page. On that page is very important information about planning for before, during, and after an emergency. On the web page as well, during a situation, we have an FAQ page that is updated during an emergency. So that is really where the best place you can find up-to-date information, such as related to that specific storm, such as garbage collection, is being collected during the situation. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you, John. The city produces a newsletter twice a month, and it is, if you go back one slide, it can be found at boynton-beach.org/newsletter. We encourage residents and businesses to sign up for the newsletter because throughout the year, it provides a lot of information that is very important as a general resident or business within the city. During an emergency, we also utilize our newsletter distribution list to send up-to-date information as an emergency unfolds. So we definitely encourage not only for you to sign up at boynton-beach.org/newsletter, but to monitor your inbox during an emergency to see the latest information. Please also be sure to check your spam folder because sometimes those newsletters could end up in spam, and we want to make sure that you receive them in a timely manner. Next slide, please. Hopefully you are already a subscriber to the city's social media, but I just want to review it to make sure that you are following if you are on those sites, because we definitely send out a lot of information. The city's main account that we utilize during an emergency is on Twitter. You'll see the handles on the slide where you can follow us on those specific social media outlets. Twitter is really important to follow, and that's really our first line of communications during an emergency. We tend to utilize just that one source so we can make sure that it's up to date. We also encourage you to sign up for Facebook, Instagram, and especially YouTube, because we will place videos on YouTube as well during a storm or a situation to explain what's going on and any valuable information that you might need. The city also has a very robust Nextdoor account, which is a social media network based on neighborhoods. We encourage you to sign up for Nextdoor because we can send specific information targeted towards your neighborhood. So that's really important if there's a situation such as flooding that might affect one area of the city. Through Nextdoor, we have the ability to send notifications not only via the portal, the Nextdoor portal, but we also have the ability to send text messages through that system, which is again really important. In addition, the city has a free mobile app. It's called My BB or My Boynton Beach app. It's available for both Android and iPhone users, and if you visit boynton-beach.org/app, you will find links to download the app. In addition to Nextdoor, we also have the ability to send text alerts through that My Boynton Beach app. So that's also another way where we will be reaching out to the community during an emergency as needed. Don't worry, we won't send it that often, but in an event of an emergency, it is important to receive those text alerts as needed. The city's My Boynton Beach app, where you'll see a screenshot of here, is a really important tool that not only can we communicate with you via text messages, but it's also a way for you to report any problems that you might encounter, not only during a storm, but just in general. If you have the ability to utilize that app to take pictures of any problems that you might see, such as graffiti in the city, and those requests are submitted directly to the department that handles them. You can view a video of how the app works at boynton-beach.org/app and learn more about the app. We strongly encourage the community to download that app. If you go back, to download that app at that website. Thank you. Next slide, please. The city has a citizen information hotline number. That number is 561-742-6921. It is important to note that that hotline is only activated in the event of an emergency. If you call it during non-emergency time, you will receive a recorded message only. Of course, for any emergency, we encourage and suggest that you call 911 immediately. You also can text 911 as well. But for in the event of an emergency, we will activate that hotline and we will be available 24/7 for any questions that may arise. We strongly encourage that you check the city's FAQ page, as I discussed earlier, because a lot of times we will be answering questions you might have in advance, so it will save you a phone call. Next slide, please. Of course, we encourage not only the outlets that I mentioned previously, but we encourage the community to monitor local news and weather reports throughout any storm emergency. As Keith indicated, the county has ready.gov/prepare that has additional resources, and they also have an emergency management phone number. We also recommend signing up for Alert PBC, which is Palm Beach County's text alert notification system. And in addition, if you would like to speak with us in person, we will be at the Hurricane Expo at the Boynton Beach Mall this Saturday, May 21st from 1 to 4 p.m. We will be there if you have any questions for our fire department, police, public works, and our city communications team will be there. If you have any questions or have any inquiries about how to handle any such emergency, we will be on site. Next slide. Again, if you have any questions for marketing in terms of storms or any additional questions, please reach out to us at marketing@bbfl.us or call 561-742-6010. I'd also like to reiterate that the city's dedicated hurricane website is prepareboynton.com. It has a ton of resources on there, such as lists of local stores that might have supplies, and we again constantly update it. A link to this recording and few past recordings is also available on that website as well. The website is translatable into multiple languages such as Spanish and Haitian Creole, and it also is ADA accessible. Thank you so much, and again, we are here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura, for all of the useful information. Next, we'll go ahead and hear from Stephanie Soflop, who is the ADA Title II coordinator, and will give information on individuals with disabilities and how they can prepare for the upcoming hurricane season.
Thank you, Chelsea. As Chelsea stated, I'm Stephanie Soflop. I am the ADA Title II coordinator for the City of Boynton Beach. So if you're not aware, the City of Boynton Beach has an Office of Accessibility for the Americans with Disabilities Act. We are a public entity. We provide public services because we're a local municipality. So we do understand and recognize that many of our residents might have a disability or have a family, friend, neighbor, or loved one with a disability. So we want to make sure that we include them in our planning. Next slide, please. So we have many, many resources that we use ourselves, and we're happy to share with anyone else. This is just a small list of a few that I thought might be helpful for this discussion. Some local nonprofit agencies include 211 Palm Beach Treasure Coast, and they also have a special needs section on their website. We also partner with Agency for Persons with Disabilities and the Coalition for Independent Living Options, SILO. All of those are wonderful general agencies who support individuals with different types of disabilities. We also have some specific disability related agencies that we often use and recommend other people to use as resources. They include the Alzheimer's Association, there's a Southeast chapter in Florida. We also use FAU, Center for Autism and Related Disabilities, known as CARD, and the Lighthouse for the Blind of the Palm Beach. And there are many others as well, but these are a few that we thought we would share with you today. Next slide. So one important thing for emergencies, disasters, hurricanes, and really all the time that we know is very important is effective communication. So we do have a sign language interpreter here today. If we are doing any important emergency briefings, we will always be sure to include an ASL interpreter. We also have captioning on our videos when appropriate. We also use visuals and provide an audio description if that is needed as well. We're always open to feedback and input from our residents. If there's anything else that we're missing, please let us know, but we do our very best to make sure that we make sure everyone's informed and we're using effective communication for everybody. Next slide, please. Some of these things were already mentioned earlier by other presenters, but it's very important to keep in mind. There's a lot of technology that is useful for everyone, not just individuals with disabilities. Text 911 was previously mentioned, I think by Laura, and our police department does accept text messaging to 911 as well as many others. So if you're in a situation where you cannot make a phone call and speak, then you can go ahead and text to 911. It's very simple. They do request if you're able to call, then to call, but if you're not, they're very open to receiving the text messages. There are also weather apps. Oops, go back, 2 more things. There's weather apps that people can download on their phones and mobile devices. I have one that's called Weather Bug, and what it does is it alerts me, it knows where I am, and if there's lightning in the area, maybe I can't hear thunder, I'm not aware of it, it will send me an alert to my phone that there's lightning within 10 miles. So that's one good thing to add. And then there's also Alert PBC, and I know this might be the 3rd time you're hearing about this, but that's because it's very, very useful. So I have signed up for Alert PBC, and I get text messages, emails, sometimes phone calls, voicemails for not just hurricane, but other kind of emergencies that are in the area that I'm in. So it's great to keep informed, and that's another great technology that I highly recommend. Next slide. We have many services here in the city of Boynton Beach. As I mentioned, we have the Office of Accessibility. I'm Stephanie, the ADA Title II coordinator. I also have an assistant, Ted Goodenough, who's the ADA coordinator assistant. We also have ADA Liaisons, which are a member of different city departments. We have different members from 17 city departments in our city that receive specific training on different disabilities. We had someone come in from FAU CARD to give a training about working with individuals with autism. We will also cover service animals and deaf and hard of hearing communication and all different kinds of topics, just to make sure that all of our staff are welcoming and prepared to work with all different types of residents in the public. Next slide. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions. Again, this is for the Office of Accessibility. The phone number is listed here, 561-742-6241, or you can use Florida Relay at 711 or 1-800-955-8771. You can email us at ada@bbfl.us. And also check our Facebook. We have a Facebook that's called Inclusive Boynton. Next slide. I think that was it. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you to the city staff and Keith Wall from Palm Beach County for providing this extremely important and helpful information. I did just want to briefly mention that the 2022 Disaster Preparedness Sales Tax Holiday is approaching. It will take place from May 28th to June 10th. And examples of tax-free items include flashlights and lanterns of $40 or less, radios of $50 or less, tarps and coolers, batteries, smoke detectors, and additional and very important safety items. So that concludes our presentations, but I will go ahead and pass it back over to John McNally, who will open the Q&A session.
Thank you, Chelsea. As Chelsea mentioned, this brings us to our question and answer section of the presentation. And as a reminder, if you would like to speak and ask a question, please click on the raise hand icon on the GoToWebinar interface, and I'll gladly unmute your microphone at the appropriate time. If you prefer to type your question, please do so within the questions section of the GoToWebinar interface, and I'll gladly read that out loud and allow some of our presenters to answer your question. So right now, it looks like I do have one attendee, Eleanor, who has raised her hand, and I'm gonna go ahead and unmute Eleanor.
Great, thank you, John, and thank you to all the participants. I'm Eleanor Crucell, the Director of Marketing and Events for the city. And what I wanted Kathy to go over a little bit was there's always questions, Kathy, concerning the shutters on, shutters off. And I know the fire department in the past has encouraged a certain period after the hurricane is safely passed because shutters should not be on a house, and you can explain why for the fire department.
Yes, that's a very good question, Eleanor, and thank you for bringing that up. Obviously, shelters is our safety for hurricanes, but it does provide complications if there is an emergency in the house and we need access. So yes, you should put your shutters up when you hear notice or the requirements of a hurricane is approaching. But just as quickly as we put them up, we should also have them removed for the safety of us inside the house. Code enforcement, along with the fire department, we do try and regulate that shutters or who is in the house when the shutters are up. And it's always best if you potentially are a seasonal resident that if you have shutters up that you notify maybe a neighbor that you are not in the house. But that is a good question, Eleanor. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. And did you go over, and I'm sorry, I've been kind of in and out, but did you go over the charcoal if somebody uses a grill and the security of not putting that in your garage during a hurricane?
Oh, no, I did not, but another great question. So obviously power goes out or we have our generator, a grill. We always use our grill 10 feet away from our house. Never use your grill inside the house, charcoal or LP tank. The LP tank for a grill has the same effect as a generator and can produce CO. It is very important to have these CO detectors, especially in your garage if you have an attached garage. But yes, use your grills at least 10 feet away from your house for safety reasons.
Great, thank you. I also wanted to have Mario answer a few questions that marketing receives prior to and during and after an event. One of them is the tree trimming. We're encouraging our residents, correct, at this time to do all of their tree trimming so that you can haul that to solid waste. If you could just go over that, we take our debris to solid waste, and at some time solid waste is going to close that during an emergency, and the reopening may be longer than our community expected. So if you can just kind of talk about that process, Mario.
Yeah, absolutely, and great question. You're absolutely right. So throughout the week, we constantly monitor and on scheduled pickup days, pick up the bulk trash for the city. That trash is picked up on each truck, and then we drop it off at solid waste, landfill, in which many other municipalities, the majority of all municipalities, are dropping stuff off either 45th Street landfill or the one that's just south of us. So with that said, we're essentially, we're at the mercy of the line at the landfill. And this is just normal business practice. This is why we encourage everyone to please, do the tree trimmings and the brushes and everything ahead of time, because during a storm, some people start cutting things down at that time, and the line is exponentially longer that we have to wait, so we can get out and start servicing the residents. In some of those instances, we try to find a location where to put debris, but that gets challenging at times. Simply, there's not enough space in our operations in the city. So that's why we encourage everyone ahead of time to please do so. During the time, we'll also take care of it as well, but it's just a delay. So if you have that tree by your house that could be a potential hazard, we encourage to trim it up ahead of time and make sure that the trees are, I think they call it breathable. So if wind blow goes by, the wind will blow, through the tree, as opposed if it's full with leaves and whatnot, it feels it's a block, and that's what allows them to turn over.
Great, thank you. Also, I'm not sure that utilities is on or not, but I do want to talk about the king tides. We did have, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, Phil, but a couple or several years ago, where the king tides also occurred during hurricane, and we did a lot of messaging on not going through deep water, and in our particular community down by our intercoastal area and the bridge, that gets very, very deep. And in fact, 2 Georges and chairs and tables were going in the water, and that's how deep that king tide complicated things on top of the hurricane. So I want to just be to give the message that if you see a sign that says, and maybe Palm Beach County can help me with it, I forgot the sign, but don't drive through. And there's a couple of quotes that we utilize, but I just want to, for the safety. Now, our police officers will usually be on that Ocean Avenue, but again, they're going to be off if wind gets a certain height as well. So we don't want you to drive through water. Even a small amount of water is very, very dangerous. So I want to just throw that out for the public to be advised of, and of course, follow our marketing outlets for information on that. Also, Laura, I don't know if you brought up, but as long as possible, we will be having our signs on I-95 billboards that would indicate hurricane messaging. So when you're riding either north or south on I-95, you'll see you can watch for the billboards, as well as our electronic signs, as long as we have electric operating on Seacrest throughout our city, that would also give messaging of being safe and what you can do during a hurricane. Phil, one more question for Phil, or 2 more questions. Phil, I think it's important for the community to know what we do, what EOC is, and what we do there, and how every department is involved, and just kind of a briefing on that we go to a building, we're safe, secure, we're messaging throughout, just kind of a little brief on what an EOC is.
Yes, so the EOC is our Emergency Operations Center. It is where it is a meeting point or place in the event that we were activated, due to storm. We do have the department heads, and they send out prearranged instructions to their members in terms of what to do, coordinate it, actually post-storm. During the storm, it's more so planning, which would, the preparation prior to the storm as well. So, fortunately, with these storms, we have notifications. We can prepare for them before they arrive. And then with their activation of the EOC, we're just mitigating, all of the things that need to be done when we're able to go out, past the storm and initiate all the functions. So it's basically a meeting place in which we, have other policies in place in the event that we cannot meet at this particular location at Fire Station Headquarters 5. We can meet at other locations as well. But this is the main area, and we also have the communications dispatching center. They're located here as well. So all of the pieces of the puzzles are put together here, and they're distributed once the storm is over.
Great. And so every single department in our city is involved in the safety of our community. And that's a prime example of one of the scenarios. And thereafter, Bill, I just wanted to talk about, if need be, we have our recreation and our library form a volunteer team. We will distribute water and let you know where those facilities are, as well as some food, so graciously donated by a couple of our community partners. So afterwards, watch for the messaging if a hurricane has come and how the city can assist you with getting ice, water, and food. And know that we have a team on the road doing that immediately when it's safe. And then utilities, I just wanted to put that back out there. Utilities does bring in trucks that can pump water, but again, we can't bring those in until it's safe. So once we can get those back on the road, like Mario's garbage trucks that will pick up our debris, we have to ensure that the roads are safe. And that's a job that the police department will go out along with Mario's group and make sure that we can safely get out to these areas. But we are committed to getting the water out so that you can go back to your homes and whatever. I know that 1 year that it was 2 days before we could get people back into an area off of Congress. So I just want to assure you that our community and our departments will work as fast as they can to make sure debris and water is out of the roads to get everybody back to their homes safely. I think that was it, Laura and Chelsea, that I can Bill, one more time. Yeah, could you just talk about the CERT one more time and just provide a number maybe that if people would like to volunteer and how they could do that, or contact fire, or how would, and Laura, you could put that on Facebook as well, right?
Yes.
Eleanor, can I mention something quickly? Hi, this is Kathy Klein from Marshal again. And I'd like to mention any Boynton Beach resident. We do have a limited supply, but we do have some CO detectors at Fire Station 5. So if anybody would like to have one, we do have a limited supply, and we would provide you with one if you want to call the main office or come by Fire Station 5. As long as you're a resident, we.
Great, thank you, Kathy. I think we got the message, and we'll certainly get it out for you. Other than that, I think I've Laura, do you happen to have the phone number that we can go ahead and verbally say for the number for our questions during an emergency that Chelsea will be?
Oh, yes, I already put that on the slide prior, the hurricane hotline number, and that is also available on preparedboynton.com. So everyone can call that number again in the event of an emergency.
Perfect, thank you, Laura.
This is John McNally. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that phone number is 561-742-6921.
That is correct, John.
And I do have a couple of other questions that were posted.
Great.
And the first one is related to, I'm guessing, the electrical utility. And the question is, we lost power. Who should we contact?
Good question. We will continue, that would be FPL, and we will continually, actually, that is our #1 question during an emergency in EOC if electric is out. So we are very adamant about getting that message out early and during the process. So certainly Laura and I can work on getting that messaging out, but it would be Florida Power and Light.
Okay, and then I believe these are somewhat related, so I'll group all of these together. Is it recommended to unplug large appliances during a power outage relating to a disaster like a hurricane?
That's a really good question for Kathy. Kathy?
Yes. Is it necessary? I don't believe that it would be necessary to unplug your appliances for a hurricane. Just like if a storm comes, we don't generally unplug our appliances for that type of situation.
Okay, thank you. And then another one related to electrical power. And is it safe to drink the water if the power goes out?
That's a good question too. And we will do a small video from our utilities department was unable to participate today. And perhaps we can post that as well, Laura, on our website and on our YouTube. You would monitor that with the EOC, and we would tell you if there was any compromise to the water systems, but I prefer that the director of utilities does the messaging on that. So we'll work on that. That's a good question. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And I can keep going down the list if you like.
Perfect.
Okay, the next one is, should I be concerned if a storm is just a tropical storm or a Category 1 or higher storm?
Bill?
Yes, that was touched on Keith's presentation. However, just to repeat it, yes, you should be, because we must keep in mind that a lot of times these storms, they have tornadoes in them. So some of those, we can't predict the tornadoes, what we can see the storms. So just as, keep the same preparation, the same type of safety measures that you've taken for a storm with a tropical storm as well, because they could be just as dangerous.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Next question is, I don't have a garage. How should I protect my vehicle during a storm?
This is also a question that we get a great deal. Bill, do you have any suggestions on that, or Kathy?
Hi, this is Kathy. Obviously, I think it just depends on your residence. Obviously, if you have tall trees or anything that could blow down on your vehicle, then I would park it, somewhere else that for safety reasons and accessibility to get out. But I don't believe that there is a certain place, if you do not have a garage, where you should secure your car at.
I think
Okay.
last year, Laura, can you correct me if I'm wrong, that they, Public Works indicated, or one of our departments, just a suggestion that moving the car as close to a structural part may be better. But do not, let us get that information also out, and we will certainly get that out.
Yeah, Eleanor, obviously if you have, it all depends on which way the wind's blowing and what's in,
Yep.
what's close to your house to protect your car from any falling debris. But yes, that is a good question on how to secure your vehicle.
Great question. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is,
And I
does the
just-
city, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to pop in here and just say all of these questions will be added to the city's FAQ page. So if you want to revisit this down the road, this will be available at your convenience for future reference.
Perfect,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
All right, I have a couple of more. Does the city provide sandbags to protect my home from possible flooding?
Bill?
Not to my knowledge, the city has not started that type of activity.
I will tell you that we have a list of our local vendors that could supply hurricane supplies. And each year we do ask Home Depot and Lowe's if they have sandbags, etc. And to my knowledge, and I've been here almost 9 years, I haven't heard of a store carrying sandbags that can be purchased. So we will keep that updated as well on the FAQs online as we go through talking to our local businesses here in town and updating our this year's hurricane resources. Thank you.
Okay, and then the final one that I have is, how soon will garbage be picked up after a storm has passed?
Mario. Okay, I'll take it. I think that.
Oh, yeah, you hear me now? That's
there you
Mario.
go,
Sorry
great.
about that. Yeah, as soon as the roads are safe for our employees to drive, like I said, they're on standby. So a lot of it is, after the storm passes, make that assessment of damage, make sure there's no down power lines, because we equally want to keep our employees and the public safe. So as soon as those roads are safe to pass through and drive through, then we'll start picking up the debris. Our first priority is clearing the roads, make sure that the roads are accessible. And then after that, it would be to remove the garbage and pick up garbage.
Thank you, Mario.
And that was our last question, and I do not see any hands raised by the virtual audience. I'm not sure, Chelsea, do you have any final words? Or if not, I will conclude this session. And so thank you all for attending. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the City of Boynton Beach's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the City of Boynton Beach's website at boynton-beach.org. Please visit the website prepareboynton.com for additional safety tips and information. This concludes today's meeting. On behalf of our organizers and presenters, thank you for attending today's Hurricane Preparedness Workshop. Be safe and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.